Welcome to your carrier update brought to you by PowerFleet. I'm Michael Vincent. He's Zach Strickland. What's going on, my friend?
Tender rejection rates falling throughout the last several months, slowly falling, I should say, throughout the several months. And then we've got a little bounce going on right now as we slowly approach Labor Day holiday. However, this is a little unusual that we see this kind of bounce this early in the cycle.
Yeah.
Our linear regression line here still explains this line or this regression pretty well at this point. So not a dramatic shift just yet, but it will be interesting to see just because this is starting to rise so quickly. If we do see some sort of trend shift in this, anytime we see this kind of jump, I think there's always a risk, but
yeah, sure.
There's a little bit of psychology in the market right now. Everybody's a little on edge about getting capacity, so these rates tend to spike pretty quickly, but they continue to try to fall back in line.
They do try to, and there's reasons for that, and there's also reasons for that spike outside of the impending holiday.
Right.
Right. So that's why maybe we're seeing a little bit of a trend. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. 22.43% up from about 20.5% at the beginning of the month. So a pretty big jump overall, historically speaking. In the context of COVID, I don't know. Let's look at the length of haul volumes real fast. So we've got short haul and local haul freight volumes having grown over the last 3 months or so. Starting to pull back a little bit over the last couple of days. Tweener haul freight, however, starting to come up. So these are also accelerating that whole idea that, tender rejection rates starting to increase again. This is only going to help that because shorter haul freight accept it at a much lower, much higher level. Tweener haul freight, the most rejected freight in the United States. Let's look at the map to see where exactly this freight is getting rejected and not rejected quickly. So we've got a week over week changes in rejection rates amplified by volumes with our weighted rejection index here. Dark blues in Harrisburg, Allentown, Grand Rapids, once again showing up. Memphis, Atlanta, Montgomery, all places that you would want to watch out for higher spot rates this week versus last week. A lot of blues on this map, a lot more blues than oranges and reds. But some of those oranges and reds are in some of the most important markets in the country, Joliet, Ontario, and Denver, all showing up in that red. And so, I wouldn't sleep on Ontario either. We've still got, it's still extremely tight out there just because we're seeing a little bit of capacity easing week over week.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep on it. No. And, there's plenty of freight out here in San Pedro that's going to make its way into those warehouses and cross docks and get onto the dry vans and move not only just intermodally, right?
Yeah, the big actionable items though here are watch out for the East Coast. Like everybody knows about Ontario, that's why we're seeing easing.
That's why it's there. Yeah.
That's why they're going out there to get those high rates. That's why we see a little bit of week over week easing. Although over the last day there was an uptick in tender rejection rates out of Ontario slightly.
Okay. So maybe a
not a
change
trend does it make,
okay.
but it's certainly worth noting that even though it is easing week over week, we did see a little near term increase.
Gotcha.
Let's look at the tender rejection rate chart here. We've got rejection rates jumping significantly out of Harrisburg, so definitely expect some spot rate action increasing week over week here in the Northeast. It may not be the greatest freight going into the Northeastern corridor, but nevertheless, it is seeing a pretty strong rise after being very stable for a long period of time.
Sure.
Highest rates in the last couple of months, since about May. So we got Atlanta here. You see this little week over week jump here. It's about a 1.5 percentage point increase. And then we've got the Seattle market, which this time of year, the Pacific Northwest starts to get less bad for carriers to go into less bad. It is kind of the agricultural time too, but that has been devastated by the wildfires and the heat.
It has. So we'll see how that plays out as we go into that season a little bit. But yeah definitely an uptick there. And
let's look at the Atlanta tree map of lanes here.
Down.
So
nice.
I like to throw these out here just to kind of illustrate where the market. So anytime I see this all in green, this is not an isolated capacity situation to a few markets.
What is this?
This is the tender rejection index change day over day.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the absolute values there in the small numbers and the percentage change from day over day there in the percentage brackets. Every single one of the larger lanes out of Atlanta going in green here. No surprise here, Los Angeles, the lowest of the large volume lanes in terms of overall rejection rates at about 17.4%.
Everybody's going there.
Nobody likes Indianapolis for some reason. This has been an ongoing pattern. That has been one of the most rejected inbound markets over the last couple of weeks on just about any market.
In any lane, not just Atlanta inbound.
Not just Atlanta, but very tough to get people to comply going into Indianapolis right now.
It's interesting because you got Columbus up here, you got Harrisburg up here, New Orleans up there, all heavily rejected right now out of Atlanta, going long haul, setting themselves up, right?
Yep.
Atlanta to Stockton, everybody wants to go there. San Francisco, West Coast.
Getting those rates.
Get to the West Coast, right? Get the rates, get the rates. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much, Zach.